Some years ago, you started on a journey of study with clear expectations. And now you find the journey has not brought you to the planned destination, but rather to crossroads. More choices, many choices, uncertainties, and challenges. I am sure you feel a mix of, I have arrived, and I didn't realize there was so much more I have to learn. I can see in your eyes that you're beginning to realize that you have the power to make your dreams come true. And I can see also the glint of nervousness in the realization that you might not be able to pull it off. One of your choices is to follow the call of individualism that is so predominant in today's society. Try to make it for yourself, on your own. Create the private world you want for yourself, period. I also want to share with you another choice. In the diversity I see before me today, in this community of scholars joined together, I see an incredible potential of working together to build something quite wonderful. This is the choice we face, to exclude or to include others from your future, to pursue your path individually or collectively. Well, Canada as a country has faced this choice before. We can look at the history of this part of Canada for some clues about the effects of inclusion and exclusion. You know as educators from your history that when French and English settlers came to this area, they benefited from the Mi'kmaq policy of inclusion. Space was created for the settlers to live in freedom, following their own religions, speaking their own languages, and enjoying their own cultures. Then we went through a difficult period where exclusion reigned. History shows us that the settlers excluded the indigenous peoples of the region from participating in the newly created economy, even though it was based on indigenous lands and resources. Later, we know black settlers arrived from the United States. They too were excluded. Then we had periods, and I was reminded again at Pier 21 yesterday, where we had many immigrants come from other ways of life. They were often excluded. In fact, we created names. We called them DPs in many areas. Community and inclusiveness, then, we found was being trumped in our history by elements of colonialism, ideas about superiority, and racism. By now, all Canadians know too painfully the role residential schools played in this history. The good news is that history is behind us. Canada has now and this history that I've recounted is not unique to this region. We all share it. And it is good news everywhere that we are moving beyond it, to understand the real costs of exclusion. Today in this region, beginning to understand that the Mi'kmaq ways of inclusion, of individual sacrifice for the collective good, is the only way for all of us to have any future at all. We can't assume, however, that including others will just happen by handing out invitations to those who were excluded. I see a different reality as a result of my own life's experience at Six Nations of the Grand River Territory, as well as in my work with the National Aboriginal Achievement Foundation. I see thousands of Indigenous children across Canada who, unless there is significant change, will never have the chance to receive the education you have enjoyed. Kids going to school in condemned trailers in isolated communities, students who don't have people in their lives providing encouragement, encouraging them to believe they have a future and they are worthy of a future. Imagine young people, graduates like yourselves, who have lost their ability to dream and hope, and for whom suicide seems to offer the better future. Yet, for First Nations people, these same children are our primary assets. They are our future. In turn, the original peoples of Canada are primary assets of Canada. So much has been contributed to Canada over the years by Indigenous people. Ways of healing, ways of resolving conflict, and so much still remains to be contributed. How to live with the environment in harmony is but one area. So to have hundreds of thousands of people fail to realize their potential is a tragedy that impacts not only on our people, but on Canada. Canada's image, Canada's economy, Canada's well-being will all be negatively impacted. Now, on the other side, I also know what happens when support and encouragement and resources are there, are provided, when there's a supportive family environment, healthy communities, and the wherewithal to achieve. These young people, after all, as you and I, were given by the Creator wonderful gifts and untapped resources. So what is needed is for all of us to work together to find the way for them to achieve their potential and to contribute to the better Canada, the better world, the world we all want for our children and our grandchildren. You know, I remember when Her Excellency Michaëlle Jean first took office as Governor General, she spoke so eloquently of the disgraceful marginalization of young people who are driven to isolation and despair. She described youth as the promise of our future, and she reminded us of the need to encourage them to join in what she called the reinvention of the world. She reminded us of the need to give young people the power and desire to realize their full potential. Is this something, I wonder, that you can relate to on this day of celebration of your success? Especially as educators, think of what you have. Think also of what you can give back. For reasons of charity, yes, but also as a down payment on your own future. Your creativity, your energies, your motivation, your increased capacity to think, to focus your mental energies, all those attributes you have learned and honed in the past several years here at Mount St. Vincent. They are all assets that you can invest in Canada's future. You know, in the past, universities were often seen as a place for youth to spend their adolescence before taking on their adult roles. a place to obtain a pass for future privilege. But things are different now. And you know how hard you worked here at Mount St. Vincent to obtain your degree. You have been